Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Weidstrom. I am the Executive Director for the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania. The League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania is a statewide, nonprofit, grassroots organization dedicated to empowering voters and defending democracy. For over 100 years, the League has been active in every county in the Commonwealth, registering and educating voters and advocating on issues that matter to our members and all Pennsylvanians. We are first and foremost a voting rights organization, and we work hard to make sure that every Pennsylvanian can safely and easily exercise their right to vote in a manner that works for them. Making it harder to vote and to have your vote counted doesn't make the act of voting more meaningful. It just prevents access to the ballot for a wider and more inclusive electorate. At a time when even the right to safely vote has become polarized, the League's advocacy, educational resources, and registration efforts are for everyone and are now more important than ever. To help protect the right to vote and ensure access to the ballot for all eligible voters, the League of Women Voters advocates for government policies that remove barriers to Pennsylvanians participating in the electoral process, including advocating for open primaries, the ability for counties to pre-canvass mail-in and absentee ballots, and we want to applaud the passage of HB 847 on May 1st, and adequate funding for state and county elections operations. The League is and always has been proudly nonpartisan. We believe that you don't need to be a Democrat or a Republican to care about issues. And while we believe that voting is a right, not a privilege, and work to inspire Pennsylvanians to vote every year in every election, we also want Pennsylvanians to become advocates for issues they care about. At our core, our strength comes from our membership. We have members from all walks of life. We value the diverse experiences of our members, no matter if they live in rural or urban areas, and regardless of political ideology, gender, sexuality, race, or economic status. Each member's unique story enriches our collective narrative. This inclusive ethos is woven into every facet of our advocacy, ensuring that the laws and policies we champion are a true reflection of our diverse community. And yet, as a predominantly women-powered organization, our social policy portfolio directly addresses issues that affect women and families, including the right to autonomy in healthcare decisions and access to affordable healthcare options, fair public education funding, and reasonable gun safety laws. Finally, the League has been an environmental champion for decades, advocating for policies that will bring Pennsylvania clean water, land, and air for generations to come. We are here today to share our policy priorities with our legislators from both sides of the aisle, and to let them know when working to advance policies that empower voters, defend democracy, and enhance the quality of life for all Pennsylvanians, the legislators have a partner in the League of Women Voters. I am proud to stand alongside my colleagues and fellow leaders within the League of Women Voters today. I'll invite them up now to share some of our priorities for the legislative session. First, I am pleased to introduce Susan Gobreski, the League's Vice President for Policy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Gobreski. I'm on the state board of an organization that is over 100 years old, that is working to empower and strengthen our democracy and taking a strong interest in the issues that we care about. Really important for women to get involved and to be involved. We are working to build a resilient and inclusive democracy. So what does that mean, right? It really, at the base level, it means that every eligible voter is able to cast their ballot in a way that is secure, convenient, accessible. We bank On weekends and evenings, we do all kinds of transactions, and we must continue to work to make voting more accessible to people for the lives that our citizens are leading, which means sometimes they're working multiple jobs or odd hours, engaging in transporting their children, taking care of their parents. So we really have to continue to expand our vision of how to empower voters and how to make it accessible for people to vote. So how can we do that? There are a couple of key ways. At a critical level, one of the things we need to do is fund our elections. The state legislature has a role to play here. Counties are doing heavy lifting. County officials from both parties are looking for improvements and support. They want to do the job. We need to help them do the job. And that right now means funding for equipment, for time, for the people that are necessary, so that we can have the systems that we need in place to make voting accessible for everybody. We need to give them systems and permission to do things like pre-canvassing. So I echo Amy's comments about the importance of passing pre-canvassing legislation. We also need to stop erecting barriers to voters. We cannot have strict voter ID. Pennsylvania already has voter ID. We have a system that's working. There have not been problems with ID in voting. So we really need to make sure that we are building a system, again, that works for the public and for the officials who need to administer it. At a critical level, we need to make sure that redistricting is fair and that there is a process that is accountable to people, that people are picking elected officials instead of politicians picking the people who will vote in their districts. This is really important, and we just went through a redistricting process, and so it might be tempting to think that we can sit for a while and wait till it comes around in 10 years, but the fight for redistricting starts now. We need to pass legislation across several legislative sessions to be able to get what we need in place. We need to make sure that we are creating more opportunities and more access to voting. Not everyone in every county lives the exact same distance away from the county seat. So we need satellite election offices. We need more drop boxes. We need them to be placed in places where people will use them. We have libraries, there are centers, there are commuting pathways. We need to continue to make sure that we're pushing for better representation, and that includes open primaries as well as redistricting, and making sure that we are making changes to the Electoral College, so that and that's a lot of work ahead of us to do that as well. But these are a set of priorities, and at the most basic level, we need to know that our elected officials will honor the choices of the voters. We need to stop playing games, stop trying to play chess with voting legislation. Every legislator needs to use their vote to make our vote more accessible to us. No more games, no more trying to move the pieces on the chessboard, no more slick moves or trying to stack the deck. If legislators need to be for everything that brings voting closer to people. And that is what our call is, that is the work that we are here to do. That applies to people on both sides. The other part of living in a democracy is what we've all agreed to is that sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, but we honor the process. And we have a fidelity to the process. If the process is fair, then we can trust each other. We don't always have to agree, but we can trust each other. And that's part of the community that we want. And all of our values are really important parts of that. I'm very proud to be here today representing the League, and I'm very excited to introduce my colleague, another Susan Bozier, who's doing heavy lifting on some of our issue priorities.
Good afternoon. As Susan was talking about, and historically what the League is very much about is protecting voting rights, protecting access, ensuring that everybody has an opportunity to vote, and to educate those voters as well. However, we're also well aware that it's often social policies that bring people to get more actively involved in what's going on with democracy. And it's towards that end that the folks that I work with on social policy are keeping an eye on some of those issues. And I'm going to just stress, well, there's a number of things we follow that we care passionately about. There are three that I really want to stress to you today that are probably top priorities right at this present time. Number one, because every single citizen deserves the dignity to make personal and often difficult healthcare decisions with their doctor and their loved ones. The League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania strongly supports protecting the constitutional right to privacy of the individual to make healthcare choices, including choices related to reproductive health care. Without interference from the government. I want to draw your attention to two things. First of all, HB 1786, passed by the House to essentially protect people who are coming to Pennsylvania to exercise their right to choose. HB 1786 is about protecting their right to privacy and also the privacy of the healthcare providers that are seeking to assist them from prosecution and civil cases from their home states. There's also been an amendment, a bill for a constitutional amendment to protect the right for abortion introduced into the House, and we want to strongly support that as well. Second issue. Gun violence is now the leading cause of death in the U.S. for children and youth ages 1 to 19. Think about that. Leading cause of death. 1,600 Pennsylvanians die from gun violence every single year. These are preventable tragedies. The League of Women Voters supports protecting the health and safety of our citizens through limiting the accessibility to and regulating the ownership of handguns and weapons designed to kill people. I will also draw your attention to the fact that there have been 3 bills that were passed in the House last year and have been sitting, 2 of them for close to a year, have been sitting in the Judiciary Committee in the State Senate without action. Those 2 are red flag laws and safety storage of guns. We call on those to be passed. Third, last point, critically important point. The League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania supports an educational funding system which benefits all school districts equitably. Quality educational public school systems which benefits all of us, our economy, our citizens, all of us. But a quality system for every child in Pennsylvania, it rests on the equitable distribution of increased state funding for K through 12 education in Pennsylvania. As such, the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania strongly supports Governor Shapiro's proposed budget, which ensures that no school receives less funding than last year, but brings all up to an equitable level. And so we call on the Assembly to support Governor's budget for education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you to my colleagues, all of you here today, for your steadfast and inspiring work on behalf of Pennsylvania voters. We will all be available after this press conference for questions. But as we are the League of Women Voters, I would be remiss to not use this time, this remaining time, to remind Pennsylvania voters that the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania is your partner in preparing for elections. Through our websites, lwvpa.org and vote411.org, you can find resources to get registered to vote, learn about candidates on your specific ballot, volunteer to be a poll worker, find out about our central issues, and much more. As we know, 2024 is an incredibly important election year with the opportunity for voters to elect the president, one of our Pennsylvania senators, and Attorney General of the Commonwealth, to name just a few key races. These offices directly affect the lives of people. If you care about the issues you heard addressed today, make your voice heard on Election Day, November 5th. If you're interested in learning more about the work of the League, please visit our website or come and speak to us after this event. Thank you all for coming, and please join us in our fight to empower voters and defend democracy.